Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Shirtless Plantain Show, the Arsenal Edition. I think that's the first time I've said that on an intro because I'm usually not hosting the Arsenal Edition. But today, your host, Mitch, I'm joined today with Gabby. Hi, Gabby. How are you?
What's up? What's up? I'm good.
No Dean or Coach today. So we're here to talk about just the two of us talking about Arsenal 2, Aston Villa nil, which is just lovely after what we experienced against this horrible, horrible team last season. It's lovely to, on game week 2, get a win. Gabby, how are you feeling going into this game?
Honestly, I was stressed. It's just because they did a double over us, and I already knew what was coming if they would have won this game, or if we would have not done anything other than win. Like draw or loss would have been bad for us, not because of it's so early in the season, not points wise, but narrative wise, it would have been very, very annoying. This Unai Emery stuff is annoying.
Yeah, I think the fact that we we're so much better off without him, and yet there's still going to be conversations from people outside of Arsenal that didn't fully experience the Emery experience under when he was Arsenal manager, that are always going to be like, he's actually just as good of a manager as Arteta, and all of us can say no, he fucking isn't. And so yeah, it felt good to get that win today. Before we get on specifics about the game, I want to start by talking about some transfer stuff because we're in the midst of a transfer window, and there's been some interesting things happening.
Has there?
Yeah, there sure has. Let's start out with the fact that this is the second time that we've had a Fabio Vieira transfer come out of fucking nowhere. The first time when we bought him came out of fucking nowhere, and then this time we're sending him back to Porto on loan, also came out of fucking nowhere. We had a long conversation on the preview pod about Fabio Vieira. You were feeling much like that he was pretty close to done. And I guess you were right because he sure didn't. He isn't going to be an Arsenal player this season.
Listen, when you said, I guess you're right, I normally am. I really am. I love Fabio. I really do think he's a good player, but he's just not well suited for the system that we have, and he hasn't progressed at all. Recently since he's been here. I think he's been here 3 seasons? Has it been 3 seasons already?
This will be his third, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't think he's progressed at all. And once you get shunted out to the wing and you're not playing in your position anymore, yeah, that was that was the dagger for him. But I think this is a good thing. If they wanted to just outright get rid of him, I think they would have just sold him. Granted, it would have been for a lesser fee than we bought him for. But them letting him go back to an environment that he's already well familiar with, so he could just have no pressure and just play, and actually play a lot of minutes, I think that's really good for him.
Yeah, it's I think of the first time that I've seen us be proactive about a potentially distressed asset, where typically it's I feel like we wait a little bit too long on players like him that are on the fringes. And with this, he's going to have a chance to play a lot more this season than he would have if he was still at Arsenal. Potentially raise his value a lot more back to maybe closer than how it was when we bought him. Doing right by the player too, of just hey, we want to make this pathway for Ethan Nwaneri. We just bought in Mikel Merino, which we'll talk about in a second. And I think it's good to give players opportunities like that to be hey, we're going to send you back home. We want to have you in a more comfortable environment. We want you to be playing, both for our sense of being able to have potentially sell him for a fee next summer, if we decide to do that, or get his confidence up and get him integrated back in the squad next year. So I'm happy with the move, and I think that it also opens a pathway for Ethan Nwaneri, which it makes me very excited.
Which is the most crucial part of that.
For sure. And then the other thing is an incoming has now been confirmed. The world's longest and most boring transfer saga of all time. Mikel Merino is going to be an Arsenal player. And I'll tell you what, despite him scoring after that number 5 performance today, I cannot wait for Mikel Merino to be playing left 8 and Rice playing at the 6.
Listen,
That's
we're gonna
gonna
get to that in a
change my
second,
life.
but we're gonna get to that in a second. I'm gonna pause the Pike thing because I can't even begin to the nonsense. But I feel like Real Sociedad is now on like the top of my list as teams I never want to deal with again. Like Leon is there because I hate Alice. He just ran his mouth way too much and always asked for an obscene amount of money for his players. And Napoli's up there too because they're ridiculous. And for some people, West Ham is there too. I never ever want to deal with Real Sociedad again. Like that was the longest saga for a 30 to 40 million pound player ever. Like, why did it take so long?
Yeah, we're not technical directors and like in these kinds of negotiations where we're like it's only 30 million, but it's like holy shit, that's 30 million dollars. Like it's more money than I will like ever see in my entire life.
Honestly, I
But
don't
it's
even
still
think it
just
was the
like
money stuff. I don't even think it was the money stuff. I think it was more about
yeah.
how important he was to their team. Like they were about to lose Zubamendi and also Moreno. I think they were like pulling their hair out, like trying to convince him to stay.
They should have known that they weren't going to lose Zubamendi. He's the most Italian Spaniard to ever live. He's never leaving Spain. It's not going to happen. But
Correct.
I'm very, very excited for Mikel Merino. Hopefully he'll be like in the squad next week for our next game, which I don't even know
I
who we're
hope he
playing next
starts.
week.
I
That'd be
hope
great.
he's. We play Brighton next week, but I hope he
Okay.
starts. Genuinely, I want to see Rice back at the 6. But we'll get to
Yeah,
that.
me too. Let's get into the game, starting with the lineup. The one change that we made from last week was Jurriën Timber making his first start of the season over Zinchenko, and Gabriel Jesus nowhere to be found because he picked up a groin injury somehow, which is fucking frustrating considering he once again was looking good and then now has another injury setback, and it's so frustrating for that to happen. Obviously, we did fine today without him, but it like he's such an important member of the squad to have, and of the like attacking options that it's so frustrating that he can't stay healthy. What do you think?
I if I speak on Jesus, Jesus is the most frustrating player. I've like, granted, I don't put any stock in number 5, but like we've already replaced him. We haven't replaced Jesus. Like, and it's
Yeah,
so
we
frustrating
have.
for.
Like
I mean, I know
Havertz has taken his starting spot.
this is true. He's taking his starting spot, but like as his importance to the squad,
Yeah.
we still need him. Like
Mm-hmm.
let's say like when Kai went down in this game and like he clutched his like hamstring or whatever, I was like holding my breath, like please, please. But yeah, I think they said it was somebody said it was a groin, but I think Arsenal said it was a thigh injury or something like that. Which they were like, it might be a little niggle. They're just being like extra cautious with him. I don't even want to hear that shit. I'm so sorry, but Jesus has been running his mouth way too much for him to be like, oh no, match week 2. Like I'm done. Like I'm out.
Wait. He's been running his mouth. I don't know if like.
Have you not seen this? Like his interviews that he's been running his mouth.
No,
Talking
I
about
have
how
not.
I trust myself to like gain my starting spot back from Kai. Like, no, that is
I
gone.
haven't seen
It's
that,
done.
but that is the attitude you want from any player within the team. Like if he had an interview and was like, "Yeah, I'm more than happy to just be a squad guy. I'll sit back and maybe come on as a substitute." That would be
Honestly,
more
I hear
infuriating
that.
for me to hear than him being like, "No, I want to be the starter," which is the attitude that all professional athletes should have. You
I hear
shouldn't be
that.
comfortable sitting on the bench.
But at the same time, I'm more like I like the Eddie type of players, like the ones who don't say anything at all. Like just put your head down and do your job. I don't want you to do any interviews. Like deny all the requests. Like you shouldn't be running your mouth at all until you can stay fit and actually have some production. That's it.
I also think it's like a thing of like betting on yourself. Like athletes are confident, they're like believe in themselves. He's not taking a hammer to his thigh. Like he's not trying to get injured on purpose. And so it's like it's a public declaration of, hey, I'm going to work to be the starter again, which is in my eyes completely fine. I don't see that as running his mouth. If he's talking shit about Kai, completely different thing. But if
He
he's
would never
betting
do
on
that.
himself, that's totally fine. And an injury that like, especially like a muscle injury where he's not like necessarily responsible for it, I don't really have an issue. Except I just would like him to be more available. I have the issue with that. I don't have an issue with him talking about it. Do you get what I'm saying?
No, I get what you're saying. I just think you're
Okay.
soft.
I, Okay, moving on. Whatever. Urian Timber started this game. What did you think out of the first time we've seen him start since Nottingham Forest last year?
I'm excited to see Simber play a lot of minutes this year. Genuinely, like he looks. Granted, they're still like wrapping him in wool because they want to ease him back into the starting 11. But like he just looks really good. He looks really good, and he
Hmm.
looks very assured of his actions when he's playing. Um, he can overcompensate sometimes and get himself in trouble, but like I think that just comes with being match sharp. Yeah, I'm really excited to see him. I know that he came on for why am I mean not came on. He came off for Calafiori. But I
Hmm.
do think we're gonna eventually see them both play Calafiori on the left and Timber on the right. And I'm gonna be really excited to see that because I think them both playing is gonna be something to behold.
Are you wanting Ben White out of the squad?
Not out of the squad, but I do think Ben needs some rest. He's like, I know he got rest in the summer
That's
because he
fair.
didn't play the
Yeah.
Euros, but like Ben will play. It's very
You're
well
talking more
documented that
rotation than
yeah, rotation
I
wise,
get
Ben
that.
will play every single game, even if he's hurt, and I don't want that to
Yeah.
happen anymore.
Yeah, I guess we now will have like hypothetically more options. If Tomiyasu exists and Timber is also healthy, we can like afford to rest Ben if he's like a little bit hurt,
Okay, plus
which
I
is
don't
a
want to
good spot
see
to be in.
I don't know if I just want it to be rotation either. I want us to start like we like in the back at least. We have a lot of players that can play in multiple positions and are really good in their positions. And I feel like if you just swap them tactically, like maybe some game you have a really fast winger against Ben White who he never plays well against, like let's say Rashford because he doesn't really play well against Rashford, and you just want to put Timber on that side. That's fine
Hmm.
because I
Yeah,
would trust either of them to play.
yeah, I'm with you. Um, I really liked Royce Offmere and Timber today. I think that like watching him was frustrating because it was like, man, I wish we had this last year.
I saw you tweet
Um,
that.
like I think we win the title. I think like him alone is worth the 3 points that we missed out on the title by. If we had him for the entirety of last year, I was very impressed with him. I His positioning is really interesting to me. Because he's doing the kind of typical left back thing for Arsenal, which is inverting, but he's doing it in a very aggressive way. I feel like typically like what we're used to seeing with like Zinchenko or when Kivior or Tomiyasu have emulated it is typically inverting into the pivot and kind of being there next to whoever's playing the six. He was fucking everywhere. Like he
Yeah,
was playing like more advanced. He was up like by Martinelli at times. Like he was all over the place, which is a type of unpredictability that I really like. But the way that Villa pressed today, I think I would have liked him to play a little bit deeper in his inversion because there was so many times where I felt like he wasn't in a position where he was a good enough option for a pass. Where we
I
were going to be
agree.
able to get out of the pressure and like the mid block that Villa had set up was really, really effective. Um, and they were pressing us well. It was hard to play out of, and I feel like he could have positioned himself better to be able to be an outlet out as opposed to playing a little bit more advanced and not really being in a spot to receive a pass. But I think that's part of it is he hasn't played in many games over the last year, and it also may have just been like a little bit. Maybe that was a tactical choice. Maybe he was trying to be more of an option to surpass a line of pressure, but I don't know if that was the best tactic for it.
No, I hear you, and I agree. I do think he is way more aggressive than when Zinchenko plays there. But I think it's because I don't think it's instruction from Arteta personally. I think it's because he trusts his own physicality and pace to get back into position.
Hmm.
So he can overcompensate and move forward, and he carries the ball well.
Yeah, 100%.
He trusts himself to carry the ball, so like he'll just run everywhere, like he'll
Yeah.
just run everywhere. And I'm like, let's relax just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy to see a fullback that like is probably as confident dribbling on the ball in tight areas as Odegaard is.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
like I
sorry, I didn't mean to
I
cut you off. I
no,
do
you're
think
good.
that Mikel also said in an interview, I don't know if it was the presser for this game or before, but he did say that Timber is an option in midfield. if they really need him. So like you can tell that he wants to play like basically in midfield. That's basically
Yeah,
his
I think
position now.
it's only a matter of time until he's our starting left winger. I think he's just like I truly think that he's just a Swiss, like a true Swiss Army knife. You can put him anywhere.
Definitely.
Mostly joking about the winger thing.
We'll get
I
to
might
that.
not be. I don't know. That's not a fully formed opinion. I might not be joking about that, but we'll see. Let's get into stuff with the game. Early on, I feel like the first half was just kind of weird. Is like the way I would describe it. Like I felt like both teams had some really good chances. Aston Villa in particular had a very, very good chance off of stealing the ball off Gabriel. Ollie Watkins missed a shot that he never misses. And it was looking a little scary at moments. We had a couple chances here or there. Saka had a shot very similar to his goal against Wolves, but Emmy got a fingertip on it. We had a breakaway where I got really frustrated because I think Kai needed to take a shot there. And
That's
instead
fair.
he like looked for a pass, and I still think there's like I and don't get me wrong, I love Kai Havertz as striker. I think he's wonderful there, but I think there's like a little bit more of the like ruthlessness. I would like to see him level up more of just like being a little bit more selfish. When you're like through on goal, and yeah, it's a tight angle, take that shot instead of like trying to pass it into a crowd.
I hear
But
that.
what did you think about like how we were playing in the first half? Because I can't say I was a huge fan.
I hated it. I hated it. One thing about Emery, he knows how to do a mid block. Like they were just letting us have possession between our center backs and just passing, and they weren't really pressing then. But once you tried to pass to a midfielder or try to advance the ball past the halfway line, like they were on top of you.
Yeah.
Martin Odegaard was he's been coming deep like I was gonna say all season, but technically this is the second game. But he's been coming deep a lot. So he came deep in today's game, but they were on top of him. He had to pass back. Thomas Partey wasn't always available to make that pass. I'm like be the outlet like Declan Rice normally is when he's at the 6, and Timber was floating. I'll just say floating. So it was kind of like it looked like they were getting frustrated, and they were trying to be, or maybe I was getting frustrated, and they were trying to be patient and just pass through that. But I was like, I feel like we need to do something to like get like just bypass this whole thing. Don't try to pass through them and just get over them. Like do the ball over the top, which we were getting a few good looks with the ball over the top. Like I think the Kai chance was one of the balls over the top where we just like.
I think that was like a counter off a counter because Villa were wanting to break really quickly, and when we stopped those kinds of chances, we were really trying to break our own thing because we were just trying to take advantage of any space that we had. I don't think we did that to a great level today.
I agree.
The best that we did it, I think, was the Odegaard chance in the second half where he like skied it.
We'll get to that.
That was a really good counter, but other than that, I was kind of frustrated with how we were countering because it was like a really good time to try to take advantage of the space that we were being given. And I want to use this to talk about Martinelli because I think
I'm ready to talk about Martinelli. I've been ready to talk about Martinelli.
Like I fucking love Gabriel Martinelli. Rough game today. Really, really rough game today. It was like even when he had space, he didn't look like as explosive or just like willing to get away. And there was multiple times where he would just be like caught on the ball too long. And stuff like that. And it was a frustrating watch.
Don't you know he just lost his best friend? Like you gotta give him some slack.
His boyfriend just got shipped off to Portugal. So like I get that, but like even if you're starting a long distance relationship, you still got to be able to do your job correctly. You know.
Listen, I've been wanting to have a dialogue about Martinelli for a long time. I think we had that in the preseason I was about to say review.
Yeah, no.
You know what I'm talking about. I can't think of the
but
word right now.
I think that you are too gung ho about it. Like
I don't know. I don't necessarily believe that though. I love Martinelli too. I hate that we have to caveat that with. I feel like you should be able to say analysis without saying that, but Twitter people. I love Martinelli too, but he just looks like he has not even in a Fabio way where he hasn't progressed. He just looked like he's stagnant right now. Like he can't. He's not a problem solver right now. And that's incredibly frustrating to watch because he just keeps hitting a mental, I don't know if it's a mental or physical block when he's playing. But I really, really think that we should, one, get a new winger. I genuinely think we need a new winger. But two, I also think Mikel Arteta needs to prioritize relationships. Kai and Martinelli do not play well together. It's so, I don't know why. They just don't complement each other well. But Trossard and Martinelli do play well together. I think they do. They play
Are you
way
talking about
better.
Trossard and Havertz?
Sorry, yes. Sorry. My brain is like all over the place.
You're good.
But yeah, I do think that Trossard and Kai play way better together. Like, and I just like, every time I watch him play with Martinelli, I'm just like, why does this not work? Like, I don't know. Maybe Mikel Moreno like fixes that problem. I don't know until we see him in the team. But it's not working. It hasn't worked all of last season. It's not working this season so far. And I genuinely, I didn't think that he was going to start this game, but I wanted Trossard to start this game. He's just in better form.
A thing that concerns me about what you're saying is like about Havertz and Martinelli not really working great as like a pairing when it comes to like how our left side operates. Is like we were saying the same thing when Eddie was the primary number 9. Is like, oh, Jesus is so much better suited to have Martinelli be successful. And if Martinelli's only successful with Jesus and Xhaka next to him, it says more about them than it says about him. And that's a little bit frustrating. I'm very curious to see how the dynamic changes with someone like Marino.
Hold on, you think it's more about them than it is about Martinelli? Like, you don't think he's the problem? Like, he's the link between those things?
Sorry, that's what I'm implying.
Oh, okay, you mean opposite. Okay, you mean opposite.
Yeah.
Okay.
That like it was more on them playing well and like supporting him well is what allowed him to be very good.
Yeah,
I'm
agree.
by no means giving up on Gabriel Martinelli. I think that he can still have a very successful season. And I think having someone like Marino, who's a little bit more Xhaka-esque in that left role, is going to help him a lot. He doesn't get the benefit that like Saka gets on the right side of like an overlap. And a player like Martinelli, I think, would benefit a lot from an overlap. But our system inverts from the left side, and that doesn't really allow for him to get that. So I think there's like systematic things that don't help Gabriel Martinelli because I think he's a quality player. But I think that like when he's so isolated, because like even when Rice is playing the 8, he's often like playing a lot deeper. He's not up there combining every single attack. And he's a little bit more one-dimensional when he doesn't have as many options. And so like that worries me a little bit. And then also we just looked so much better when Trossard came in. Obviously easy to say because the game state changed almost immediately after he came in because he scored. We're jumping ahead a little bit, but like I just feel like the left side dynamics worked better with Trossard there than they did with Martinelli in this game. I agree.
I just think he's just much more complementary to the people that we have out there. The relationship, I do think that Martinelli plays better with Jesus. Like, he just looks like a different player when he plays with Jesus. But you also, like, you're right, you shouldn't need the right striker, the right center mid, like, to actually play the way he needs to. Like, great players show up regardless of who's next to them. Like, Saka, if we swapped Saka to the other side, and he had the same conditions as Martinelli, he would still play as well as he always does. Yeah. And that's the problem. Maybe, I mean, I think it's a little bit too early to say this, but maybe Martinelli is like, I already think he doesn't have the ceiling that Saka has. And I think 2 seasons ago, we would have not said that because he was scoring so many goals. A lot of us like thought that Martinelli had maybe a better ceiling than Saka. I personally didn't, but
I didn't.
I personally didn't, but you know, some people said that.
That's mostly just because I think so highly of Saka. Like,
yeah, exactly,
I just think that his ceiling is best player in the world, and Gabriel Martinelli, while I think his ceiling was world class, not close to that. You know,
exactly. But at this point, we're not even going to get to world class. I don't want to harp on him too much because I'm really going to be paying attention this season to how he plays when we get Marino in the team. That's when I'll make my judgment, because if we get Marino in the team and he still doesn't look good, that's a problem. Like we were missing his goals from last season badly, and Jesus wasn't showing up for us either. So, and it took us a while to get Havertz like up and running. So like if we can't get that left side up and clicking, Trossard is just gonna have to stay there, or put Gabriel Jesus there. I don't know, but like I don't. That's a problem for Mikel.
Well, I mean, Trossard coming in and immediately scoring, I think, helps him lock down a spot for sure.
Yeah, that's the most clutch player in our team, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. We'll get to the goal a little bit later. I don't want to jump ahead too much. I do want to say one more thing about Martinelli before moving on. One of my old soccer coaches that I'm still in like good contact with, listener of the show, shout out to Zach. He'll often give me like predictions about Arsenal that are always negative and are always true, and it pisses me off. And like I remember, like I think early last season, him being like, "I think Martinelli's reached his peak," and I'm like, "That's not true." And then Martinelli's kind of stagnated since then. So I'm begging you, Zach, please give us good predictions, not bad ones. I'm tired.
We need a reverse jinx. We need a reverse jinx.
Please stop this. All right, let's move on to some other stuff that happened in the first half. It was a little bit of a physical game, to say the least, a little bit chippy.
A little bit?
I was very frustrated with the refereeing throughout the entire game. I felt like our level for a foul was different for theirs. I felt like if we breathed on an Aston Villa player, they were going down and they were getting a whistle and we weren't. But I more want to talk about a funny thing that happened with this, which was just like everyone kicking balls at each other in the corner after Saliba dispossessed Watkins. And then McGinn kicked it at Saliba, and then White kicked it at McGinn. And I'm glad that no yellow cards were taken there because it was like still an active ball. So like technically they were just clearing the ball, but it was asshole moves from both of them. And I do love just anytime Ben White defends his teammates, it always brings me happiness.
I'm so sorry, but I love shithousery, especially Ben White shithousery. It's so funny to watch because like I didn't even notice that it happened the first time because I was like so focused on Saliba. And then like when they played the replay and I like heard the commentary, I was like, oh, Ben was the one who kicked that. Like, of course. Why am I not shocked at all?
Yeah.
I love him so much.
Think that Ben and Saliba and also Timber, I think, were my highlights of the first half. I thought the three of them looked really, really sharp. I would put Gabriel in that, other than the one play that led to the Watkins chance.
Yeah, I think Gabriel was a little bit uncharacteristically shaky. Sorry.
Yeah, he looked calm other than that. Do you think that if Watkins had scored that, it would have been... I feel like it would have been controversial if he scored that. Because I think that was a foul on Gabriel.
I don't know if it would have been controversial. Like in my head, do I think it was a foul? Yes, I do. But I get very frustrated because they also never call fouls on Gabriel. Like in my head, controversial is like the Newcastle goal at St. James Park last season.
It's very reminiscent of it. Gabriel was bundled over in that play as well.
I think that was more of a foul than this one, though. Like, I feel like this one was more 50-50. And I wouldn't like it. I do think it was a foul, but I would understand if they didn't call it back.
Yeah, for sure. What players stood out to you in the first half that, like, you thought played really well?
I thought we were playing like garbage in that first half, but Raya
was a rough first half. That's fair.
Yeah, but Raya was amazing. And I can't speak enough, and I know I have technically, but I can't speak enough about his calmness at the back. Like it's like night, not to harp on Ramsdale or anything, but it's just like night and day the way that they marshal their back line. I just feel safe when he's back there. I just really do. Like I thought for sure Ollie Watkins had scored that goal, and the way that he clawed that out of the goal was insane. Like, and it was really good to see. I know I don't like us like getting peppered or anything like that. Of course not. But like, it's really good to see him make really good saves, just because I think there are some people who genuinely still have like caveats next to his name about if he's a good shot stopper or not. And him constantly showing you that he is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't let it happen the whole season. I don't want to see us get peppered the whole season, but like that's what we need. We need to find our Alisson, because there's some games where Liverpool just like you don't play as well and Alisson saves them. And like we needed that from Raya in this game badly.
I don't think we necessarily got peppered in this game, but like Villa's a good team and like had their good chances. And I think once again, David Raya came up big like he did last week, which is, what we want. I also think that like every single week of last season, he looked more comfortable as the Arsenal goalkeeper. And now more than ever, he looks more confident in that. And he was a good shot stopper at Brentford. That was never like a
Agreed.
thing that he was bad at. But I think that there was like moments last year where he just like was like a little bit shaky, kind of still like, I want to say easing into playing for Arsenal. And I think that's completely gone. That save in the second half was phenomenal. I think that changed the tide of the game because it was looking
Amazing.
really scary. Moving on to the second half a little bit, I think that like Villa played really well in this game. Like the scoreline, I don't think is fair for Aston Villa because this is maybe a game we should have lost. And I think last season we probably would have. There was like they played really really well. Morgan Rogers was
That guy is insane.
fucking phenomenal in this game. Was so good. Was an absolute problem for our midfield. Number 5 was wearing him like a fucking backpack the entire game because he could not keep up with him because he's washed as fuck and not good anymore.
That guy
and
was
Morgan
terrorizing
Rogers,
him.
He's very good.
Oh my god, he was
like Rice's yellow
him.
card he takes in the first half is because Party fucking sucks now. Like he gets turned and then Rice is like, all right, well now I've got to take a yellow card in transition.
I had to take the technical foul.
But Rogers was phenomenal. I thought there was like a lot of really, really scary moments that Villa were creating on. And like some of the subs they were making, I'm like, man, this team is deep. Like Villa's got to like, I don't think they're a team that's going to be like falling away from the top 4 race because they're in the Champions League this season. I think that they have a big enough squad to compete on multiple fronts. I don't think they're going to be in the title race.
No.
But I do think that they're not going to fall off. I think they're going to be a good team again because they have a lot of good personnel.
Honestly, that was my prediction at the beginning of the season. I think that Villa will fall away because they're in the Champions League this season, and they'll have the inverse of Newcastle's season. I think Newcastle will come back and look as good as they did 2 seasons ago. Because the Champions League, whether you like it or not, it takes a toll on you. It really does because you have to play your best 11 in that competition. And they're with the format the way it is now, they like adding extra games on those legs, and some of those players have like been playing in the Euros or whatever. It's just, yeah, we'll see. But they did play well. And Rogers was absolute terror for sure. It was scary. It was scary to see him running through our midfield like that.
He was very, very, very scary. And it's credit to how good our back line is and how good David Raya was today. That we were able to kind of like weather that storm for a long time because for a while, like it looked like, I feel like if Villa scored one of those goals, we're not winning this game. They had a couple decent chances. If they pull one of those away, we're not winning this.
We look a little bit rattled.
Yeah. But the game changed when that Raya save, I think, turned the tide a little bit. But then shortly after that, Leandro Trossard comes on for Martinelli. And 2 minutes later, finishes the chance. We're up 1-0. And it's just what he does. He's just such a fucking good finisher. He is so clutch when we need him. Someone in like a group chat that I'm in called him, it was like the aura of a cult hero for the club. And like if we win the league, he's going to be like one of those guys where like he was not like a mainstay, like one of the best players in the team, but like fucking huge part on why we win the league will be because of Leandro Trossard, because of like being able to come in these moments and score these kinds of goals in tough games that we maybe shouldn't win. Like Villa were really good today. I can't stress that enough. I don't know if we deserve to win this game.
I've always called him Arjata because that's who he reminds me of when he plays, and he's just so clutch. He's our most clutch player, which is so wild to say, like because he's not our best player. And like you have a Martin Odegaard, you have a Bukayo Saka, you have like you can even say like a Kai Havertz or whatever, but he's our most clutch player. Like when you need him, he shows up every time. And if you were looking at the timeline during that second half, I was watching the timeline and I was just like, a lot of us are asking for Trossard, and I know this is a perfect game for him. It's a perfect game because I feel like we didn't have that many chances in the first half, so that was whatever. But in the second half, we did have a few chances, and we just or we got at least half chances where we got into the box and we just weren't shooting. We just weren't shooting, and I was like, we need a shooter. Like, we need somebody who's going to be selfish. Bring on
Hmm.
Trossard. Like, I need that. And of
Yeah.
course, as soon as he came on, first touch of the game,
Yeah.
scores. Like, it's just such a Trossard thing to do.
It's that instinct that I think a lot of Arsenal players struggle with sometimes, of
Agreed.
just like, ball comes to me, I'm taking a shot. And it's ruthless and what you need. And to be fair to him, even though, like, I think he's playing well enough, and Gabriel and Martinelli's in like a little bit of a downturn to where like Trossard deserves to start. I maybe still want to see him as a super sub because I think he's just so good as a super sub.
And he comes on
Um,
angry, for sure. He
yeah, he
comes on
comes on
angry.
pissed off, scores with his first touch. He's just like, I love seeing him off the bench because I think he's just really, really effective with that. But also, when a player's playing like this, you can't. It's hard to not start them. So like, I don't blame Arteta if all of a sudden Trossard's in the starting 11 next week.
Listen,
But
I just think that I think of him as the same way I think as like Ben White. Like, sometimes I just want him to be rotated like tactically. It doesn't have to be like because he's playing like shit or something like that. Like, sometimes this is not the best game for you. Sometimes this is the best game for Martinelli or whoever you want to put on the left-hand side if we get another attacker. But this was definitely a game for Trossard. 100%. Like, I really love that guy. I really, really love that guy. And he's, like you said, he's instinctual. He's instinctual. And I think we play, like I said earlier, I think we play better when he's in the side just because of the relationship that he has with Kai Havertz. When those two people are clicking, because Bukayo Saka is going to play well regardless, really, unless they're kicking the shit out of him, which they kind
like
of
they
were
were
in this
today.
game. Yeah, like they were in this game, but I'm not going to touch that. But yeah, he just plays well. He just plays well with Kai, and I want them to just keep harping on that relationship.
Yeah. Um, as most goals do in a 0-0 game, this completely changed the game state. And I think we were the better team from there on out. Like, I don't think there was a moment from there on out where I felt like we were gonna potentially lose or drop points. There was moments earlier in the game where I was like, I think I'd be okay with a 0-0 draw at this point, of just like, based on how this is going.
Oh
But like, once
man.
we got that goal, I felt pretty confident. It felt like it was a very cathartic goal. Like, I was alone in my house, so I had the luxury of being able to just like scream after that went in, of just like yelling, because it's just like a 0-0 game like this where there's like so much tension of like, don't want to fucking lose to Unai Emery again.
Yeah.
I feel like they've been playing better than us. Like, if they scored, I'd been like, yeah, that's coming, kind of thing. Where it was a very cathartic goal where it's like, let's fucking
Go.
go. All right, I can exhale. I've been holding my breath for the last 60 minutes. And now I can just kind of, okay, I think we're going to win this game now.
I feel the same way. I feel the same
And
way.
I think that a lot of the Arsenal players probably felt similar as well, because it's got to be tough to be in those kinds of environments as a player, because you're like, there's so much tension the entire way. And it's like, even we're in game week 2 and we're already like feeling the pressure of a title race. I don't know what the players are feeling with that, but like, I know as a fan, I'm like, all right, well, it's year 3 of being in the title race. Like, we gotta win these games. Come on, let's go.
I don't know
Let's
if it
get a
was
goal.
necessarily the title race though. I feel like it was more of a mental block at Villa Park. Like, there's
Sure.
some grounds that you just know you're not going to get over the line, like Anfield, like St. James Park. Villa Park is
Mm-hmm.
one for us now, and I
Yeah.
was just like, just get over the hump. I can't do 3 back-to-back losses to Unai Emery. I don't want to see it. I know that we already have our bogey teams, but like I don't want Villa to be one of them. Like, they were just better than us last year. Fair enough. And granted, in that first game at Villa Park last year, we probably should have scraped out with a draw because we were very good in that first half. And we just missed some chances. We just didn't score, which is what Mikel
Mm-hmm.
said in the press conference. He was like, we just didn't score. That's it.
Yeah.
But this game, we were not better than them. We were not better than them. But I think that shows the mark of a great team. Great teams like Manchester City, they drag themselves over the line. Even when they're playing
Yeah.
like shit, they find a way to win. And that's what we did today.
Yeah, like, we already know that we're a good team. It's like when we were kind of like working our way up, like when we were like in a top 4 race, and then we were like in a surprise title race. It was like, okay, I need to see, like, you want to prove sustainability, so you want to see Arsenal play well over a course of X amount of games to be like, okay, we're a good team. we already know that. We know this team is good. We know this team is going to challenge for a title. I think it comes down to games like this where you don't play well, but you're able to get a result of like truly what gets you over the line. I think about that Fulham game at Christmas all the time of just how
Oh
bad we
man.
played. Um, and I think that like we played really badly, but if we were able to like get a win over the line despite playing very badly, it would have been, that game alone would have been the point different enough to win us the league. And so like on some of these games where we didn't play as well, but like we didn't get the result, like both Villa games or the Newcastle game we lost last year or the Fulham games, like all of those losses that I can think of or those dropped points come down to it was our off day and we weren't able to turn a loss into a win the way we were today. And this like shows the kind of maturity in the team. And we talked a lot about it in the preview pod about like, I know you wanted an attacker, you still want an attacker, and I'm with you in terms of like I would be very okay if we signed a winger in the last week of the window. I don't think it happens if I'm being completely honest, but I'd be very, very okay with us doing that. But I think there's a lot to be said about familiarity. Like we have quality attacking options when they're available, and so like the more like a lot of these guys have been playing together for a long time. Like we saw how much Trossard and Saka were like interchanging on their goals last season. Like a lot of goals over like a certain period where like Trossard would assist a Saka goal or Saka would assist a Trossard goal. So like you build this familiarity over time, and you described it as staleness, but I think I want to describe it as like togetherness and like a team that's like building this together. That sounds cheery and like and corny. I completely understand. Like I understand that sounds like corny of like how I'm saying that. But like I read an Athletic article about like teams that like almost won the league and like how they either got over the hump or they didn't. And sometimes it's only buying like a couple players in a window and keeping a lot of the core of the team together. And like, hey, this team went to the last day with Manchester City. The huge changes don't necessarily have to be made. Like add here or there, improve the team, but it's not like, okay, we need 8 new starters kind of thing. And I know that's not what you're saying. I'm not putting words in your mouth with that. But I think that there's a lot to be said about just like these players have been playing together for years at this point. And they're only going to get a better understanding of how to play together, which can only get us closer to the title. And we were that fucking close last year.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, like you said, I granted I still wanted an attacker and I wanted a winger more than a striker for sure. But like I've been saying the whole pod, like relationships matter. Like Trossard playing with Kai, like whenever Gabriel Jesus gets fit again, we'll see what he looks like when he plays with Martinelli. I think that building those relationships are very important. I mean, the two constants in the team are like Martin Odegaard and Saka are next to each other every game. They're never moved. They don't
And
switch wings. Yeah, exactly. And Ben White. That right side is so well drilled now. Like you don't think about it. You just do things. You know where your person's going to be without looking. And like even when I know Saka was offside for this, but there was that chance where Martin Odegaard gets into the box and slips that pass into him, and he just doesn't shoot. But that's neither here nor there. But like he knew. Like I don't even think he really looked at him. He just knew where he was going to be, and he put the ball in there. Like that is what I want to see on the left hand side, and that like we saw that when Xhaka was here because Xhaka had been here for 3 or 4 seasons already. Like we need to see that when we get another person who is only going to play that left center mid, not like we'll shift Declan Rice there sometimes. We'll shift like Kai Havertz there. No, like we need somebody who's just going to be there. So you get that chemistry because it matters. It does matter when you're playing. When you have no chemistry with your teammates, you look like Chelsea. Like
for sure.
That's what you look like. And we don't want to look like that. I want our left side to be as good as our right side.
Yeah, 100%. I do think that something with that debate of like the left and right side of Arsenal is I do think the left is a little bit dysfunctional right now and like still kind of figuring its shit out. But I do think the right makes it look bad a little bit because of how good the three of them are and how used to Ben White, Odegaard, and Saka are to playing with each other. So like our left side still needs to be figured out. but our right side does make them look a little bit worse because of how fucking good they are. Let's Arsenal extended their lead 2-0 in a mixed way. I saw
I'll let
someone
you be
post a
biased.
picture.
I'll be unbiased this time.
Oh, I refuse to be unbiased. I truly can't. I don't think I'm like capable of being unbiased about this player just because of the off the field stuff.
It's fair.
But I saw a tweet that was like a picture of that Arsenal fan TV guy that like doesn't celebrate England goals when Kane scores, and it's like that's exactly like how I was sitting on my couch today. Of just like, okay, we're up 2-0. That's good.
Yeah.
Lovely. Even though he scored that goal, I think he played like shit today. I think he was very bad, and it was unbelievably frustrating to watch. And I cannot wait till he's not in the starting lineup anymore.
So I have so much to say about Thomas Partey. Like, I'm trying to be unbiased, but I also can't look at him and not think about the off the field stuff. But if I'm thinking about just this game, it's incredibly frustrating to me that you want to take one of our best players in Declan Rice and shunt him out to a position that he's okay in, but is not his best position, to accommodate somebody who shouldn't even be in our team anymore. It's so frustrating to me. He played like trash the whole game, and then it's papered over the cracks with that goal. And granted, that goal was the dagger. I love that we scored it. Like, thank God, because I was like, one attack from Aston Villa and they might just like level it up. It was a smash and grab for sure. But I just like, I'm watching him on the field, and I'm just like, all the things that people say that he's good at, I never see that stuff. Like, it never overshadows the things that he's really bad at now. And I'm just like, why? Like, why is he here? I just don't understand. I'd rather see Georgie. I tweeted personally, I'd rather see us play Calafiori at the left, at left back, and then put Timber at the left hand side, just so we could put Declan Rice at the 6. Genuinely, I would rather us do anything else rather than try to shoehorn him back into this team. We look more open when he's playing. He constantly gets like, the way that Zinchenko is harped on as the weak link in our backline when he's not there anymore, like, that's how Thomas Partey should be seen now, because they press him badly when he's on the ball, and he is almost sure to give up the ball, almost sure. Like, and then when he's trying to make the recoveries, he's like lunging, and like you need a foul. Like, it's just frustrating to watch, because when you're so used to, we got so accustomed to Declan Rice last season, and he was so assured. That man has go-go gadget legs. We know, like, I'm going to give him some leeway in this game because, one, he's playing out of position, and two, he's tired. Like, he's tired. He played all of the Euros, so I know he's tired. But, like, I just, like, when you're used to that, what he did for us last season, all of the things that Thomas Partey is good at, Declan Rice is also good at, in my opinion, and better at the things that he's bad at. Like, when you have to like level it out, I'm just like, I always will pick Declan Rice. I will always pick Declan Rice. And if you need to, put Georgie in there. I'd rather see him because he's a smarter player than see Thomas Partey in there ever.
Yeah, I think the argument for 5 over Jorginho was the like physical element, but I don't think he has that anymore. I think his physicality and like just athleticness in general has kind of gone down a cliff. He's not an effective tackler. He's given away a lot of fouls. He doesn't cover large spaces effectively, especially compared to Rice. I totally agree. I feel like we're hindering Rice a little bit by putting him at the 8. I said this in the preview pod. I don't think that playing Rice at the 6 is wasting his ability at all. I think it's something that he's really good at, and it's a hard position to play. And it's very, very frustrating to watch someone not play well in that kind of role when like you have someone also on the field who could play well. And so hopefully Marino fixes that because it's very frustrating. I mean, nice goal. It's always nice to see Emi Martinez fuck up.
Yeah, not gonna lie, that was hilarious.
And like I'll take a 2-0 lead, but like it was a mixed reaction. It should have been 3-0 because Martin Odegaard should have put a chance away a little bit later. That
Odegaard.
He just fucking skied. That was a wonderful, wonderful build up and attack, and then he just skied it. Very unlike Martin Odegaard to like miss from there.
I have a question for you,
that's
actually.
an automatic Martin Odegaard goal. What?
I have a question for you, actually. Do you think that Odegaard just had, like, I feel like he has, like, a disaster class every time we play at Villa Park. Do you think that as well? Like, he did, I know he didn't play.
He's straight up cursed there.
Yeah.
He cannot score at Villa Park.
I don't know what kind of juju was underneath the pitch, like it is at Old Trafford or whatever, but, like, that was just not good. I thought for sure that was 3-0.
He's playing for Norway. Like, he thinks he's wearing the Norway kit every single time he's playing at Villa Park. It's a tough one. But ultimately, didn't matter because we won 2-0. Moving on, Saliba, it was already 2-0 at this point, but just a huge recovery run and perfect slide tackle into a celebration like he just scored a goal. And, like, yeah, that's why we fucking love this guy.
I love a defender who loves to defend.
This guy.
I love a defender who loves to defend. Oh, my God. That guy, I don't... It's weird because we're so amazed to see it every time, but, like, I really feel like sometimes I'm like, yeah, Saliba's gonna get there. Like I'm not as worried because he's just like, his physical ability, his dominance on the field is so crazy to watch. Like, he just, like, it must be very frustrating to play against him. It must be so frustrating. You're so far ahead of him and then he comes out of nowhere. Like, you're just like, where did you come from? Like, why? Oh, man, I love that guy.
No, that was outstanding tackle. Like, there's nothing that these defenders and David Raya want more than a clean sheet. And it's great to see them fighting for that, even when it's like, hey, the day's won. We're up 2-0. It's the 89th minute. And no, you're still diving in the box with a perfect slide tackle. Like,
oh, man.
Most defenders fuck that up and give away a penalty and have a red card. And then all of a sudden it's really scary last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But no, just perfect tackle every single time. I mean, he did the same thing against Mbappe at Marseille. Yeah. Like, he's been doing this for years. He's
best defender
a
in the world.
Generational defender. And it's a blessing to have him play for the Arsenal. We had a debut today for Arsenal. Calafiori came on for Timber for like the last 15.
Didn't he come on in the first game? Or no? He didn't come on in the first game?
I don't think he did. Well, I remember on the broadcast them saying that this was a debut, and I don't remember him coming on.
I was gonna say, I really do think he came on in that first game. He was on for like the last 3 minutes or something. It was
so like, maybe it was nothing. Like because he played for so little. That's why the broadcast was saying that. Anyway, Calafiori played for the first significant amount of time in an Arsenal shirt, played for 15 minutes. I mean, obviously not a huge sample size, but what are your thoughts on how he played? There was like one moment where he like fought with Emery, and I was like, all right, I like you. But like, how did you think he played in that 15?
I love that guy. I love Calafiori. Like, I was already gassed when we signed him. Not that I knew that much about him, but like just watching him in the Euros and then going to watch his comps. And I know comps can be misleading, fair enough. But like, he just moves me. Like, he just moves me. There's something about him that's just like X Factor. And I know it's weird. He is a handsome lad. But yeah, he just moves me. Like, he just carries, he reminds me of Timber kind of in that way, where he just carries the ball well. And he like popped up on the right-hand side, even though he's supposed to be on the left. Like, he was running everywhere and he just wanted to be involved. Like, he just looks like somebody who's like, I'm happy to be here. Like I'm just happy to be here. But yeah, that shithousery with Emi Martinez was, it shouldn't have made me laugh as much as it did, because I was just like, what's happening here? Timber was just, I mean, like, Calafiori was just trying to run away from him, and then they're like bear hugging him, and I was just
Conte was like holding him down, like, what are we doing?
He was just like, what? It was just a peak shithousery, because you know they were sick that we were up 2-0. Like, they were sick. And I was just like, yeah, you guys wanted to time waste?
We deserve to.
Exactly. I said, you guys wanted to time waste, so like, yeah, let's get this done. Like, yeah, I really like him. I can't wait to see him more. Genuinely.
Yeah, I can't wait to. I'm very curious to see how we use both him and Timber. And it's a little bit scary if you're someone like Zinchenko, where like I don't know if you're going to get much of a sniff based on how those two look. Choice.
I genuinely think that.
Which is perfectly fine. I think that the project has outgrown him a little bit. And that's good. Like he was truly a world changer in his first season for Arsenal. But I think his weaknesses were an easy point to get stabbed for us.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy in the direction we're going. Before we get out of here, who is your man of the match of this game?
Oh, that's so hard. I was thinking between Saliba and Raya because it has to be one
Mm-hmm.
of those two. I'm going to say
Yeah.
Raya. I'm going to say Raya because if he doesn't make those saves, I don't think we win that game.
I think I agree. I think I'm also going to go with Raya. But another name I want to throw in the hat of like was one of the man of the matches is Trossard. I think he just fully
Hell
changed the
yeah.
game after coming on. You'd even take the goal away. I think he played excellently after coming
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, for sure.
What a super sub performance, and what a smash and grab win
I'll
from the
take it.
Arsenal. We're 2 for 2 on the season. We're on track for 114 points this Premier League season. The Invincibles don't have shit on this team because we're not even going to draw a game. That's
Period.
all for us this week. Gabby, you know what to say.
Peace.
Peace.
Take your shirt off.